A pilot finished his 14-day quarantine and then was found positive. Does that mean we should make people take a test before leaving quarantine?
Well, I presume he came back before the 20th of April. At that time, the visitors only had to be quarantined at home without collecting specimen. I think the collection of specimen only started on the 29th of March, but at that time, only one specimen was required. And then as from the 20th of April, the Center for Health Protection started to collect 2 specimens, one on arrival, a second one on day 12 of the home quarantine. So I presume the pilot missed out the collection of specimen. So now he's being tested positive while he's in hospital for a different reason. But having been in the course of the disease for so long, I presume this, although the specimen tested positive, they are most likely the non-viable virus RNA. The test that we are using in Hong Kong is highly sensitive. Even if the virus is already non-viable, the test can still pick up the RNA. So I mean, from what I gather, he came back in March. So between March and now is almost 2 months, right? So I presume that the specimen contain only non-viable virus. So I don't think we need to be concerned.
Now, Hong Kong scored a 23-day streak without any local infections. How concerned should we be about, the new community clusters just as the city is starting to relax its restrictions?
Not so surprising, because we still have a lot of visitors with Hong Kong ID card coming back from overseas. And some of them can still be carrying the virus beyond 14 days of the home quarantine. So there's a small percentage of people who actually can still develop maybe very silent infection beyond the usual incubation period of 14 days. So they are the ones that can potentially spread the virus in the community. So I think that's probably why the 66-year-old lady and her husband and also the grandchild, right?
Granddaughter, I think.
Great, yeah. So most likely probably the husband got infected first, and then the 66-year-old lady. We still have people coming back from overseas quite regularly, and they can still carry virus to Hong Kong. So what we should do now is to be careful with the visitors. We try to collect 2 specimens from them. And in case there is any sporadic case in the community, straight away we have to isolate all the close contacts and make sure they are quarantined. If the close contacts have symptoms, they should be admitted to hospitals. What
is the criteria is there now for someone to be released from hospital? Because I know people that were in there for like 50 days.
Well, in Hong Kong, the revised criteria include the patients have to be clinically stable, not requiring any supplemental oxygen. And that usually would occur beyond 10 days from symptom onset. And we can also check the specimen. Even though if it tested positive, we can actually look at a unit called the cyclic threshold. If the cyclic threshold is very high, much higher than 30, it usually means it contains non-viable virus. And also based on the virology data from overseas in Germany, and also done in Hong Kong, if you are in the illness 10 days or longer, most of the specimen, I think I should say all of the specimens so far, cannot be cultured on the viral culture. So 10 days plus, and also a very high cyclic threshold on the specimen, higher than 30. And also we can check the antibody, because when you become infected, the antibody would start to emerge from about day 6, day 7 onward.
So, for asymptomatic patients, are they seen as, not as infectious as previously thought?
That's not true. In fact, there are already data showing that people in the asymptomatic phase, they still carry very high viral load, and they can still pass the infection to others. And there's actually one case report published in JAMA. There was a lady in Wuhan who went to another city in China.
Mm-hmm.
She infected 5 relatives. Now, this girl had no symptom herself. And when all the 5 relatives were infected, everybody went for the test. And this index patient tested positive, and she remained symptom-free.
Wow.
So we cannot ignore the asymptomatic patient population. They are still infectious.
Right. And that's why it's so important to continue to do social distancing and carry out the full isolation and, the whole quarantine period. So many countries in the West are emerging from their lockdowns. I think, what advice would you give to them about avoiding a huge second wave?
You have to make sure there is no new case for a number of weeks before they can actually loosen the isolation criteria or the social distancing criteria. And don't do that in a hurry. If you do that in a hurry, you can actually develop a second wave very easily. So I would advise them to have a period, say maybe about 4 weeks without any new cases. Then you can start to relax the social distancing measures.
Well, Dr. Hui, as always, thank you so much for your advice, and hopefully we can continue, where cases are down to a minimum in Hong Kong. Thank you.